Hi, it's Tony again. Today I'd like to talk with you about the PC process in action. So what does it actually look like when you're engaged in this work? As you know from the previous segments, the agreement and the appointment are in place. We've already had our individual sessions with both parents. And now we're either at the tail end of our joint session or we're into the point where we start to work on the agenda. One of the things that's most helpful in this work is to ensure that there is always an agenda for any conversation or meeting. As a coach and someone who's influenced more by coaching than by mental health training, I tend to have meetings once we have had our initial meetings. I tend to do the sessions by phone. A lot of mental health professionals and some attorneys as well prefer to do face-to-face meetings. I find that it's a little bit, it provides a little bit more space. It requires me to be a little bit more attuned to some of the energetic and more subtle aspects of communication when we communicate via phone on a conference call. And probably the most effective aspect of the work is when you have a conference call and your co-parent does one of these, or gets real frustrated, it doesn't influence the process, or it tends to influence the process a lot less. So we get together and we have a conference call, and that is preceded by having an established agenda. Let's say, for example, the agenda happens to be whether or not the child is going to enroll in a soccer. What I will do when I get the agenda item is ask each parent to give me their result, the result that they'd like to achieve on this conflict, and what are the reasons, what's the underlying rationale, what's the interest, if I can get them there, what's the interest that the children have in this problem. The other thing is, before we get to the point where we actually have the conference call, there has been an exchange of information and requests between the parents. And this is where I have found that a product, and it's a web platform called Our Family Wizard, is actually indispensable to the process. So some parenting coordinators will have people just call in and give the information to them and schedule a conference call and proceed that way. I like to use, my view is, I want to empower people. I want to teach them the skills that they need to develop so that they don't need me to serve as their parenting coordinator anymore. Because I take that long-term view. I want them to be the best co-parents that they can be. And I want them to learn the skills that they haven't yet acquired. So I rely heavily on Our Family Wizard. It is a website. It's not expensive. It costs $100 a year for each parent. And there's multiple aspects to it that I think are very helpful in this work. First and foremost, it has a shared calendar. A lot of folks like to use Google Calendars, but I may not necessarily have access to that, or I'd have to have a bunch of different passwords and a bunch of different aspects, and I'm not interested in having people pay me to go hunt down things. I'd rather have it be set up efficiently. So they establish an Our Family Wizard account. They grant me professional access, and I get to see everything that's on there. Like I said, first and foremost, a calendar. So we'll start off the work by saying, whoever has the responsibility for parenting time at a particular point is responsible for entering that parenting time in the calendar. And that includes pickup time, drop-off time. Then we go to extracurricular activities. Any extracurricular activity that you, as either mom or dad, are primarily responsible for, you log those into the calendar section. And then any special events, or church, or anything of that nature. But this gives me a visual picture of what the child's week looks like on a week-to-week basis. It also has a wonderful trade function, so if a work engagement comes up for mom and she needs dad to pick the kids up, she can send out a trade request to say, can you trade Thursday for Friday? And if it's approved, great, it's done, it's entered into the calendar. If it's not approved within a certain period of time, then mom knows I have to get somebody else to take care of the child care responsibility or the pickup or whatever that happens to be. The other thing it has is a function where folks can email each other. A lot of times when people come to me, they're used to texting. Texting creates very difficult record of things. It's usually in reverse order if you want to read it. So it's and texting by its very nature encourages reaction instead of a response. So I say no, texting is for emergencies, and that's all. I'm going to be 15 minutes late or for transition, or Sally just got hurt and I'm taking her to the hospital. That's text or phone call. Otherwise, they communicate via Our Family Wizard in an email. As the professional, I have access to see everything, so I watch the communications. Let me finish with Our Family Wizard and then I'll talk about the process. The other aspect of Our Family Wizard is there's a section called My Files. So most parents don't utilize this as much as they can. You could put information about children's health, their doctors, their school records. I mean, you can get down to shoe size and dress size if you wanted to get to that degree of granular detail. It's all there. But the section that I most rely on is called My Files. And My Files is a place where I will post either information that I want parents to know about because it's going to be helpful. If I have to make a recommendation or if they reach an agreement, that gets posted on the My Files section. And most importantly, it creates a clear record of everything that transpires in the engagement. And that's important because at some point there might be a need for court review. And the way that Our Family Wizard is set up, they can certify and deliver to a party a complete record of everything, including the times that people log in and log out. The other function that's great about Our Family Wizard is the expense sharing function. So say, for example, that dad is going to take the children to the dentist and they have insurance, but there's a $20 copay for each child. So dad will pay the $20 for each child, take a picture of each receipt, upload that receipt into the expense section, and mom will get a notification, you're responsible to reimburse me for half of this expense. In the protocol that I establish, mom's got, I think it's 10 days to review and respond. She can either accept or reject the expense. If she has questions, obviously she can communicate about that. However, if mom doesn't respond in 10 days, then it's deemed that expense is accepted, and the next time that there's a money transaction between the parents, that money will either be added to or taken from the transferred amount. So that's Our Family Wizard, and it is, like I said, it's a very effective, cost-efficient tool that helps to manage the process. So how does this relate to a particular conflict? Well, we talked about soccer. So dad says, I want Johnny to enroll in soccer. And mom says, no, I'm not really interested in soccer. I think it's a dangerous sport and Johnny will get hurt. And then dad will, they'll go back and forth. And they go back and forth 2 times. And they can express whatever it is that they want to express to each other. But if they can't resolve their differences in 2 go-arounds, at that point, the person who wants to present it to me can CC me and say, Tony, here's a dispute that we're having. Would you please get involved and help us resolve it? I now have a record of everything that's been said, all of the information. If there's documents that, like a schedule or something, it's uploaded into My Files, so I know what it is. I'll see how it impacts the existing schedule. I'll decide whether or not I have to do any external work. I worked with one family where there was such a dispute about the nature of the sporting activities that the kids could be involved in, that if it was a quote, inherently dangerous sport like hockey, I was obligated to present the issue to a doctor at Children's Hospital and have that doctor render an opinion as to whether or not this child was able to get involved in that sport. So I may have to do some type of investigation before we have our conversation. So the issue's framed up. I've got the information. We schedule a conference call. And there I will try and bring in my mediation skills. I'm a trained mediator, so in the interest-based model, I try and get parents away from the positions that they hold and to look at what's underneath, where is their underlying interest. Make sure that we're working in alignment toward the goal of what's best for our for the children. And then lastly, try and develop that agreement. If we come to an agreement, the matter gets written up and posted in a document, like I said, in the My Files section. But let's say they can't come to an agreement. Okay, I've got all the information I need. Thank you very much. I will now post a recommendation. Usually 2 or 3 days later, document gets posted, and it goes like this. This is the issue that was presented by Dad. This is Mom's desired result and the reasons why she thinks it's important that this result be achieved. This is Dad's desired result and the reasons why he thinks it's important. Then there's a discussion section. Here again, I bring in the education aspect of the work, and I try and educate them on what it is that I think are the important elements of the decision or recommendation that I'm about to make. And then at the end, there is a decision, and that's listed out. This document gets posted into My Files. Of course, couples have 24 hours to review it for inaccuracies, but it is effective when it is posted. And it's a binding decision. As I said in an earlier segment, it's just as if a judge ordered it. In parenting coordination, both parents have agreed that if it gets to a point where I have to make a decision, they will live by that decision. They're bound by that decision unless and until a judge says otherwise. So this is very important work. This is very intimate work, and I deal with it in a very serious way, and I expect my parents to deal with it in the same way. We'll talk about the issues of compliance and court review in a second. So what happens when a recommendation is made and a parent disagrees with it? Well, if a parent disagrees with it, they always have the right to go back to the court and have the matter reviewed de novo. De novo means anew. So the judge will look at the issue as if it had never been decided before. However, sometimes a judge is interested in learning what has the parenting coordinator said. Under the terms of my service agreement, anything that's in our family wizard and all of my decisions are admissible in court. So the judge will get a copy of the recommendation, and that might be one factor in a decision. Parents are able to litigate the issue before the judge and present any other evidence that the judge wants to accept. And the judge will make a decision. If the judge confirms the recommendation and it was appealed because a parent didn't like the recommendation, the parent who appealed it and, quote, lost, is subject to be called upon by the judge to reimburse their co-parent for the entire cost of the appeal, including attorney's fees. I put this procedure in place because my goal is to keep parents out of court, is to get them to learn the skills that they need to learn. It's to empower them to be effective co-parents. Because primarily what they're doing is shifting from the intimate relationship of being parents in a nuclear family to the business relationship of being co-parents in a binuclear family. So that's one way a matter can get to court. What's the other way? I issue the recommendation that says Johnny can go to soccer. Mom says, I'm not going to comply with it. I'm not taking Johnny to the soccer on the days that I am supposed to be responsible for parenting. Under a decision that was recently issued by the appeals court called the Leon case, that decision exposes mom not only to a violation of the stipulation that appointed the parenting coordinator, not only to the agreement, the service agreement that was entered into with me and the co-parent, but also to the potential of being found in contempt of court. So if dad were to appeal that decision and say, Judge, I want you to review this decision because the parenting coordinator issued it, we agreed that we'd be bound by this decision, but mom is not following it. The judge, after review of the facts and finding out that mom didn't follow the decision, could well be in their rights to find mom in contempt and to deliver what's called civil sanctions. In the Leon case that I mentioned earlier, the judge in that case determined that if mom did not get counseling to deal with the issues that were standing in the way of her becoming an effective co-parent, she would consider suspending parental time with mom until she could change the way that she dealt with dad. That's a pretty drastic remedy, but that's the type of thing that could happen if a parent decides to say, oh, screw this, I'm not going to get involved, or I'm not going to follow the recommendation or the decision that a parenting coordinator made. So this is, like I said, this is serious work. That's what happens with a court review. That's how decisions get made when a parenting coordinator works with me. Other parenting coordinators may have different approaches, and they're certainly well within their rights to do that. But that's what it's like in this world. And I hope this information has been useful to you. And if you have any further questions, please feel free to visit my website, tonypalusi.com, or send me an email. Thanks a lot.